way it works now, it's so well thought out, and there's so many smart things, and get control over things so quickly. It's incredible.
Hi, hope that you're well, or if you're new, thanks for checking out the channel. I'm Matt from Distant Sun Studios, and recently I had a great conversation with Wytse from Wytse Studios. One of the most common questions that I'm currently asked is what would be my preference between the Softube and SSL control surfaces. Well, by chance we compared notes on both. So, sit back, relax, and here's 15 minutes dedicated to all things Softube and SSL. Let's go. I was going to talk to you about the Console 1 Mark III. I've got one sitting in front of me here, and the thing I've really enjoyed with it is that literally I was doing a video on it the other day, and I finished the video and I realised I hadn't looked at my monitor once. So I was able to, apply my filters, EQ, compress, blend everything in, listen back, and I thought, yeah, that sounds really nice. And then I suddenly remembered what it was like when I didn't have a screen, and I just had the desk, and I would adjust and so on. And all the decisions I made obviously were then just from listening. And like you were saying, with music being creative, I think that's just so important, because if you're focusing on a screen and waveforms and
and I have the Console 1. I've bought it from Softube, and I am now thinking of a way of putting it in my desk, because indeed it's so much easier to use it, and it actually brings me a little bit closer to one of the things I would like to achieve one day, and that is a screenless studio. It's quite impossible with the productions that I need to do nowadays, the channel counts and stuff. Like, you really need to be hands-on in Reaper as well. I'm using Reaper, but I would love to one day be able to do like 90% without a screen and have my screen on the side. I think it's way more immersive, like same thing as you were saying. You're way more immersed in the music, and it's better for acoustics, because if there's one thing that is annoying me in my stereo production of my speaker system, it is the screen that is normally right here. I've moved it to the side for this call, but yeah.
No, that's fascinating, and I really like the idea that your goal is to have a screenless studio.
Yeah. I don't think I will ever be able to achieve that, but at least it's like it makes you think. It's challenging your thinking and your workflow a little bit. And I'm a huge analog freak. I saw one of the questions on your list is about the gear in here, and I have a lot of analog gear in front of me, but I'm willing to sacrifice that space in order to put a digital controller there, because I think it's more valuable. And the Console 1 from Softube is right now the most valuable for me. And I've tested, like, over there is the SSL controllers. The Softube one is actually over there right now, because I don't have a place for it on my desk, a permanent place over there. I have an Asperion controller over there. I have the Nectar Panorama controller upstairs in a box. And all of them are great controllers, but the thing that Softube is doing is literally taking your eyes off the screen, and that's something that I'm missing with the other ones.
Yes. Well, the thing I liked about it was that to load up anything, I mean, like, I watched your video on it, and I saw how you had done a custom strip just with the FabFilter EQ and compressor and so on, because you use them so much. But the thing I absolutely loved about it, with, say, the guitars that I just did, was that I would always tend to use an API EQ on an electric guitar, and then I loved a Blue Stripe 1176 emulation because of the harmonics that kind of gives it, and I just like the feel of that. And then I also quite like having step frequencies, just because I suppose so many records I love have been made on desks where they have that. So for instance, I put the Chandler at the front, and then just in terms of making a decision, it it was really simple. It was either 50, 60, 80 or 100 on a low cut, and you kind of take your pick. And I just picked 80, and I said, well, that does almost seem a little high, but I'll just see how it goes, and it was fine. And I love that, because it was nothing to do with me looking at a screen and trying to see where the frequency began and all of that stuff. I was just listening to it in context and thinking, click, 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 it's there.
Is there something that you're missing right now in the Console One, or do you think it's like a complete system?
The only thing, I suppose, that there are so many good products out there, I suppose, in terms of plugins that aren't supported by it, so to speak. Like the Softube has the link 360 link, doesn't it, where you can program anything.
Yeah, SSL has it. Yeah,
SSL. But the only thing, because I actually I went out and bought the UC one, isn't it? The smaller one.
With the fader,
I watched your thing on that, and I'd had one, and then they hadn't brought out that link software when I had it, and I don't really use SSL stuff so much. I prefer more API, so I got rid of it, and then I watched your video on it, and you were doing, and I was like, right, I'm going to buy another one. So I did. So I bought another one, and I have the UF8 in front of me, the faders, and
so. Actually, kind of the same thing happened with me, but I didn't buy it. Like SSL sent me that controller. I reviewed it and I was like, there's no real case for it in my studio right now, so I'm sending it back. And then they came with a 360 link thing, and they were like, we're going to send it to you again. And I was like, can't it just stay here? Because then every time there's an update, I can just cover it. So that's why it's it's over there now, because I'm still experimenting with a lot of stuff, and maybe that controller will get a place in that setup as well, to map certain plugins to, or something. Like a combination between multiple controllers could be one of the things. But I'm still figuring that out.
I mean, the only thing I found with it was, their solution to mapping, I thought, was absolutely flawless. It was brilliant. The problem was that when I was then mixing, I'd forgotten with certain things where I'd map stuff, because I got carried away, and it's like I would think, I'll put the API Vision channel on there, and suddenly I'm applying all of these different controls off different parts of that plugin, and then I can't remember where they are. And then I realized that the simplicity of the Console One in some ways was its biggest strength, because I just know exactly where everything is. Even like, if you look at the compressor section, I just know if I hit shift, then I can go and add the gain. And instead of having auto gain, I can then go and set the level, or I can blend on the next button across. And it doesn't matter what compressor I've got on there, it's always the same control, if that makes sense. So I just found, I thought, well, that's really what I want, because the whole thing of having option paralysis, I think, is the biggest thing that slows you down and then probably wrecks mixes, because you spend you go down a hole, and then before you know it, your ears are tired and you kind of have to stop.
That's actually kind of the philosophy where snake oil came from. It's multiple things. Frustration with the basis of snake oil is actually that I was so frustrated after buying a lot of plugins, and then when I started my internship at Sound Vision, I'm still in Sound Vision in the building, but I'm now I have my own studio within that building. But when I started there, we first did some recording, and then George said, "Hey, maybe patch an 1178 on my vocal." And I was doing that, and I was dialing it in, and I was like, "Oh, so that's how it's supposed to sound." And it immediately clicked for me, like, but what the heck are those plugins doing then? Like, and I went back home, and I almost didn't sleep, because I was trying to figure out why I couldn't get the same sound from my DAW with plugins. And George later told me, like, hey, the reason why I've bought so many analog equipment is just because I couldn't get it done with plugins. Like, it's not there. And that's where snake oil started, and there's a double thing in there. Like a lot of people think they can buy themselves the solution to the problem, while the solution sometimes is perform better or mix better. Like learn more about the tools that you already have instead of getting a new tool that in the end is not going to help you. And that is creating like those big lists of plugins. Like sometimes I see somebody inserting a plugin and you see like a huge list. And I'm like, how can you ever know all these plugins from the inside out? Like know every detail about it, and keep it simple is oftentimes my thing. And that's circling back to Console 1. That's I think one of their strengths. What I did do with the UC1 is I did make some sort of mental map that I would always like. There's no attack control on there, no attack dial. So I would always put that on, like, I think the range of the gate or something, so that I would always know, like, okay, the attack of this thing is over there. But have some kind of system in there that really helped me, because that way it was pretty easy for me to know where my settings were, because I had a certain way of mapping it. Yeah. No,
I completely see the logic and why you would do that. And I suppose the thing was that I maybe have a handful of things that I would use that you kind of just, they're just the things that you would go to, that I like, but they wouldn't necessarily lend themselves naturally to that particular controller, because they weren't a standard channel strip. And I suppose that's just why I mean I don't know about you, but on the, this is turning into an advert for Softube, which it wasn't meant to.
I am actually paying them. like they should, Softube, if you're watching, like, come on.
Well, exactly. I mean, I've just spent a week making a video about their stuff, and I bought the controller. I didn't get sent it.
But I mean, I paid for it as well.
Yes.
So but to be fair,
but but when you just touch on it, it will tell you the parameter, for instance, and it will, and so just little things like that, or a double tap, and it goes back to 0.
I just want to say that it is going to get better. And more than that is some. I cannot say more than that, but it's going to get even. Console 1, I have something there. It's going to be so much better.
Yeah. Well,
but it's a second product you're going to need to buy. So.
The fader. I mean, I've seen Drew from UA and Todd have both put up a couple of videos in the last week, and unfortunately I know for my dear SSL UF8 it's not going to be here for that much longer, because I just the way that the two Console 1 controllers will work together for me is going to make absolute sense, because the other one, that the channel isn't going anywhere. It's just really,
and
really
honestly
good.
the way it is, like, we're currently still in beta with the software, and the way it's integrated now already, with still a few loose ends, but the way it works now, it's so well thought out, and there's so many smart things, and you can so get control over things so quickly. It's incredible that you can really see that they've done a lot of thinking into how to make things as fluent and easy as possible, but not in a Riverside way, but more in a professional way, like having a lot of features without it being
yes. Well, I think just something as simple as the fact that you can just press a button to bring an EQ in and out, and you can gain stage it so quickly. You see that? I remember watching the Jeff Buckley song Hallelujah. I can't remember the name of the producer now, but I watched the mix with the masters with him talking about that. I just really liked the song, and then it came up and he was on a big Neve console, And I just remember they were doing something on maybe the vocal or the guitar, and he selected a frequency and he said, oh, and I'm boosting this a little bit there, or cutting whatever he was doing. And then I said, I'm blending in a little bit of reverb here. And he says, and this is how I see whether it works. And he just switched it on and off on the desk.
Yeah.
And then same with the frequency. He says, here's the frequency in, here's it out. And the guy doing it with him said, what frequency? He said, I've got no idea.
Yeah. But that's
because he didn't. He looked down, and because it was a Neve, I think it was very small writing as well. So he had to kind of look to find it. Yeah. But he said, it doesn't matter. He said, I know roughly where it is, and then I'll hear it. Yeah. And then I notch it out. And I think that's the thing I love about the Console One the most, is that you can add your EQ and you think you're roughly there, but then you just drop it in and out. Is it doing what I want? And that's it. Move on.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So there we go. A massive thank you to Wytse for coming on the channel, and we actually spoke for a couple of hours, so there's plenty more from the interview still to come. In the meantime, there's a link to Wytse Studios in the description below, and if you'd like to watch my review on the Console One Mark III, well, that video's right here. I'm Matt from Distant Sun Studios. Cheers.